You know, I see a repeat of what was happening in the 60s, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to share my story, is that this is the same thing that happened back then. Our society has not been fair to people of color, and it's time to fess up to that. It doesn't just take the black community or the Hispanic community or the Asian community. It takes the white community to start to stand up and say, yeah, we need to make some changes in this country, and significant changes. Don't let this be a soundbite that lasts for 6 months or a year. It's time for change, significant, true changes. COVID, huh? My name is Rod Janelle. I was the first African American fire chief on the Denver Fire Department. I am a veteran firefighter, retired from the Denver Fire Department. I was born in Denver, Colorado, actually in the projects. It was called the Platte Valley Projects. And I was actually delivered by Dr. Justina Ford. My uncle, Marshall, was Dr. Ford's driver. So a number of my family were delivered by Justina Ford. I grew up in the portion of the Five Points neighborhood. The impact of Five Points on my family, my dad, my grandfather, my great uncles, all of them migrated into Five Points almost on a daily basis. Growing up in that neighborhood was one of the best memories of my life. But we also knew where our boundaries were. Colfax was kind of the boundary on the south side, and you didn't want to go past Colfax. I mean, basically that was a white area on that side of Colfax. But nothing beyond that. There was really no in-depth discussion about some of the inequities that were taking place in the country. I eventually went to the Maury Junior High School, and then ended up at Manual, and I am a proud Thunderbolt that came out of Manual High School in 1967. And it shows the black firefighters at be 80, 83, 84. The history of the Denver Fire Department is something that I think people need to understand. It was 1896, or around that time. There was an individual running for governor, and he promised the black community that if they provided the support for him running for governor, that he would establish a black fire company. So that happened, and it was Station 3. So 1923 until 1957, Station 3 was completely segregated. No black firefighters could work at any other fire station in the city. And over a period of time, they started to allow some of the black firefighters to take tests for promotion to lieutenant and captain and engineer. I was able to stand on the shoulders of those individuals that fought so hard to open up the doors for us to try to accelerate. And I was able to become a recruiter for the Denver Fire Department, which was under a consent decree at that time. The consent decree stated that for every white firefighter hired, you had to hire a minority firefighter. And I looked at that and I thought, this meets all the criteria I had. I needed a steady job, I needed insurance, I needed a credit union. So I applied, and one of the individuals came to me and said, Rod, you're not going to be able to go in the fire department. And he said, but that's not the bad news. You have spina bifida. And I was shocked. What is spina bifida? He said, well, you could be crippled, his words, crippled or dead within a month. And my wife and I, she said, let's go to the doctor and check this out. I went to my doctor and he said, spina bifida is a birth defect. You would have known a long time ago if you had spina bifida. So we had to sue. And 2 years later, the judge said, you put this man on immediately. And that was on a Friday. Sunday, January 16th, Super Bowl Sunday, 1976, I was sitting in a firehouse. No training, nothing. I was sitting in a firehouse. And it was a challenge, but there was no way that they were going to discourage me from not continuing on in that position. These obstacles that they come up with at that time, they didn't think them through. They just figured that we'll tell them anything and they'll just go about their business. For Hispanics, they had a height requirement. For blacks that were too tall, they had the height requirement. And listen to this. This was the excuse that they had, that if you're carrying a ladder and you have a tall guy and a short guy, the ladder will be like this. It was the most ridiculous stuff you ever want to hear. It was ridiculous. So that was the fire department. And the days prior to that, they had so many obstacles that individuals had to overcome, and police department, get in the city, period. It was almost unheard of to get into some of those positions. We had an incident over off of Alameda and Ivy, and for the first time in probably since 1950s, we had 4 black firefighters on the truck. This guy was having some kind of medical emergency, and we walk in the house, and his wife, who was so nervous she didn't know what to do, and she came up to me and she said, "Sir, are you boys really from the fire department?" She was so afraid of having black firefighters in her house. And we had a $500,000 truck outside. She called us. We had uniforms on, or our bunking gear, and she was still afraid that we had probably stole this truck and came in to harm her husband. But that fear was in her. And that kind of fear, I think about that now, and it always tells me, the fear of the black male. It's real. It's definitely real. I made assistant chief and went to an emergency downtown. All of these trucks come in, and the assistant chief usually stands outside, and you coordinate the firefighting efforts. And so I have on a white shirt. The assistant chiefs wear white shirts and a white hat. And some guy comes out of the hotel and runs up to me and says, "Can you grab those other 2 bags? I'm late for my flight." And I thought to myself, and I got angry too. I said, "I'm here on an emergency." And then I thought to myself, he doesn't see me, he sees black. So we had a Hispanic chief, Rich Gonzalez, who was very progressive, and he opened up the doors for a lot of the changes that took place in the fire service. I mean, I didn't go on the department with the desire to be the chief, but as I went to different levels, I thought I could do this. My appointment was in 2001, and at the swearing-in ceremony, something that I'm proud of, Mayor Webb was, of course, the mayor, a Thunderbolt. Judge Bo Patterson was the presiding judge at that time, and he swore me in, another Thunderbolt, and myself as a Thunderbolt. And it was just, that was a proud moment for me, being part of Manual High School. One of the things that I am so blessed to have is a strong family. And my family has always been behind me. And the other thing is the community. There were people in the community when I was riding on a fire truck and they would say, "Hi Rod," or just seeing a black firefighter meant so much. There was an incident that happened. It was a older black woman. We went there on a medical emergency. She was getting more and more agitated, just more and more agitated, and she was saying, "I can't go. We're going to take her to the hospital, put her on the gurney and take her in." She said, "I can't go, I can't go, I'm ashy, I'm ashy." Everybody in that room had no idea what she was saying. And I was able to just reach over, take some lotion, and rub it on her hands, and just get the ashiness off of her hands, and she settled completely down. And it told me that it's important that people that understand the culture, speak the language, they have to be there in order for us to provide the best service possible.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of what happens in the police department, is that not understanding the cultures, that understanding that communication is critical to individuals or incidents not escalating to the point where you have bad results. We have got to get to the point where we really truly open the doors of the fire service to say you're welcome. For women, for people of color, for the gay community, it has to be an inclusion of all people. And this job isn't for everybody. I mean, everybody doesn't want to run into a building that people are running out of. So you have to have the right mentality to be a firefighter. But I think there are a lot of individuals out there that would love to be on the fire department. It was the best career I could have possibly chosen, or chose me, whatever happened.